Good evening. Tonight, I wanted to talk to you folks about what makes Bigfoot so scary, and other cryptids for that matter, but we're going to concentrate mostly on Bigfoot here, and because he seemed to be one of the most widely reported, most well-known cryptids that we talk about here on this channel, and probably in the world. But what makes them so frightening? What makes a lot of these encounters in the woods? People react in terror. What makes them so scary when you're getting rocks thrown at you in the middle of the night and you see things in the bushes and you hear these strange howls? What makes these creatures elicit a fear response, especially in human beings? I think there's quite a few reasons for this. Now, one, I'll tell you, I am pretty frightened of Bigfoot in a lot of ways. The same healthy respect I would give like grizzly bears or mountain lions, or if we were in Asia with tigers or African lions, that hunt in packs, any kind of a large predator, you should have a healthy respect and, let's say, fear of, but know that they can do some damage. Now, you can be scared of something and still live with it. Like, you'd be scared of sharks and still go in the water. And that's kind of the way I am. I have my fear of Bigfoot and these other creatures, but I still get out in the woods. I still go look around. You got to be careful and use some caution. So I've had my pants scared off me a few times in the woods. And there's a few times that I've been out in the woods where I think Bigfoot's been around and I was just more curious than anything else, but still, you still get an adrenaline rush and you're still a little frightened, but you kind of act in spite of it. You kind of go out there, you kind of press forward, you start looking around because you want to know more. You're curious, but you're scared. And then there's other times that I've just been flat out terrified and just wanted to leave and just wanted to get out of there right now. So let's take a look at a few of these things and what causes this. And these are just my opinions. I am no psychological expert, but these are just some of the things that I've thought about over the years and talked to others about that I wanted to share with you guys. So for the biggest thing for me, for Bigfoot and Dogmen and a lot of these other creatures out there, is it's a complete paradigm shift. It's completely challenges your perception of reality. We like to think of man and our hubris, so to speak, that we've discovered everything and we've shot everything and put it in a museum somewhere and we know just about all there is to know. Sure, we discover new species, like, deep dark in the woods, we found a new species of butterfly, big deal. And we kind of know everything out there, and that, despite the hundreds of thousands of eyewitnesses that happen every year with Bigfoot and all the native beliefs and stories, we say, they saw a bear, or they saw somebody in an outfit, or they're hoaxing. The truth is, we think monsters don't exist, and when one steps out in front of you, or you're in the middle of the woods in the snow, and you can't see any other tracks, and a rock flies over your head, and you hear tree knocks, and you hear growling, and you know that no human can throw a rock as far as it was thrown, you're not seeing any footprints that a human would leave, and you know nothing else in the wood has tree knocks, and then one steps out in front of you, sometimes dangerously close, like within feet, 8, 9, 10 feet tall and 4 feet wide. It's very scary because we think these things aren't human. They're not a gorilla. They're not an ape that we know of. They're not a monkey. They're, not quite what you think of a giant as in the, big one-eyed giant with a club, with a loincloth. You don't know what these things are. And, you may peripherally be know what Bigfoot is. And if you're on this channel, obviously, you're probably into Bigfoot, but we also get a lot of skeptics here. And there's a lot of precedents for Bigfoot in that there are a lot of ape species, and you're an upright walking ape. Basically, you're one of the great apes, and there's gorillas and chimpanzees, but there's nothing that really looks like the Dogman or what people describe as like werewolves or the Beast of Bray Road. You have an upright walking, looks to be like a canine with a protruding snout and the extended forepaw, and leaves a dog-like track and has claws. I mean, I think you even start getting in the realm of demonic when you start talking about Dogman over so a natural creature, but they are flesh and blood. They eat, they leave prints, And for me, this is what's so scary is, monsters aren't supposed to be real. And I'm going to call Bigfoot monster, but what else are you going to classify him as? If you took a 10-year-old kid out in the woods and said, what is that? And they saw a Bigfoot and they saw this huge thing, especially if it was growling at them or whatever, they would say it was a monster. So these things aren't supposed to exist. They're not recognized by science, and all the smart, I use that in quotations, all the smart people out there will tell you that it's all a hoax, it's all made up, you're all wasting your time, Bigfoot doesn't exist. Well, I think we can pretty much conclusively say on this channel that they do exist. I know that they do. I'm not a believer, I'm a knower. I've had interactions with them, and I know many of you have as well, and it's just it challenges your perception of reality, and I think it's why it's so convenient and so easy for people to say they don't exist, because it's so much easier just to say, oh, people are making it up, or it's a hoax, or it was delusional, or what were they smoking, or how much did they have to drink, or what kind of pills were they taking, or you must have been smoking crack, dude. There's no such thing as Bigfoot. Well, that's much easier to say than to actually think about the connotations of these things existing. The other thing that makes Bigfoot and Dogman and a lot of these other cryptids so strange is they walk upright. They walk like us. They look like us. They act like us. They're similarly built to us, about 85 to 90% built like us structure-wise, but they're not us. And to see something else walking upright, it's been a long, long time, if you follow conventional science anyway, since human beings, Homo sapiens sapiens, modern day man, has come in contact with Neanderthals, at least 10,000 years, probably a lot longer. And when you get back to even some of our other ancestors, it's been a long time since human beings have had interactions with other things that walked upright that weren't exactly us. So I think as paradigm going through our whole life, looking through the eyes of science, going through our day-to-day stuff. I mean, we see dogs, you go to the zoo, you see bears, you see elephants, you see creatures. Nothing else is walking upright. Sure, a bear can take a step or two, and that's why we're like, oh yeah, look at the bear, it's walking like a human. Or dogs do it occasionally, but nothing moves like us. Now, Bigfoot has been known to go to all fours, and their bone structures and a lot of the hypothesis on how they're built shows a lot of that. But to me, that's one of the most shocking things is when you see something 7, 8, 9, 10 feet tall, look around a tree or something and it looks like us but not like us. That's really scary and really frightening, and it really boggles the mind. The other thing that really gets a lot of people is the secondary features. By secondary features, I mean in a lot of these creatures, and some varieties of Bigfoot, they have big teeth, they have giant hands, they have giant shoulders, claws in some species and some subspecies of Bigfoot sometimes reported. Dogman especially is reported to have claws and big fangs, or Bigfoot show their teeth. Even if it's a big patty like Bigfoot with the square teeth, you're still looking at something with the head the size of your chest, and you're still looking at giant teeth, even if they are square. It's still frightening just to think because of the sheer size of this stuff. And then when you get into some of these other creatures, like Dogman especially we'll hit on, it seems like they're built for pure terror and pure killing, kind of like very much an apex predator, like a tiger or a lion's got massive teeth, very stealthy, powerful legs and limbs and big giant claws. And this is really no different. You look at it and it's, especially with Dogman where they have the claws and the teeth. And even if you look like this picture of a wolf here, not only they serve a dual purpose because it's not only is it very intimidating to see these teeth, but they obviously have them for a reason. And they obviously have the big maxillae, the big jaw muscles, to power these jaws and bite force and to tear flesh. And you know that these are hunters. These aren't necessarily scavengers, although they might scavenge, but they're meant to take things out. The other thing that's super creepy with Bigfoot and a lot of these cryptids is the eye shine. You see glowing eyes in the woods. And humans, especially in this modern age, we always have flashlights, we always have phones, we always have headlights, we always have porch lights. The world is more lit up than it's ever been and probably ever will, and it's only going to keep growing. So for me, the glowing eyes, either it's shining back or sometimes people report it glowing on their own with no other light source. The other thing that is also very frightening about a lot of these creatures is the sheer size of them. And I think it also goes the other way too. Some of the little creatures that people see in the woods, they see a little upright, like the little ones people talk about, the pugwudgies. You see a little 1.5, 2 foot tall size creature come out in the woods and run by. That's like freaky and frightening, but in a different way. But also, if you're 8, 10 feet where you could take a step and reach out your arm and touch something, and a Bigfoot shows itself that people report, or it runs right in front of your car to where you can see individual hairs and see its eyes and see scars and dirt stuck to its fur. When you're that close, it's frightening just because of the sheer size of these things. Now, Bigfoot at the upper range of reports, we've heard about 12 feet tall, getting even bigger. And we're talking 4 or 5 feet wide at the shoulders, absolutely massive. And when you get to the 10, 12 foot range, you got to think they're over 1,000 pounds. They got to be close to 1,500 pounds. Pure muscle. We're talking like Incredible Hulk, essentially, at that point, where a tree that you could probably barely get your arms around, they could just bend right over and tear in half. And there's reports of these things chasing down cars and running next to roads at 30, 40, 50 miles an hour. Absolutely incredible. And that's just a run-of-the-mill Bigfoot. We're not even talking about some of the more bizarre things like dogmen and mountain giants and some of the other things out there that are really scary in the woods. So for me, like I said, we talk about mountain giants, and these are a little bit more human-like, but absolutely huge. They get 12, 14, 15, 16, 20 feet tall, leave these giant tracks, and they've got real interesting histories, and people do report them, especially in the remote wilderness of like Montana and up in Canada and Alaska. Very strange. You think Sasquatch is big enough, but when people start reporting things over 12 feet tall, I start thinking that maybe they're seeing something else, which is just truly behemothly frightening. So I always joke that Bigfoot's your gateway drug into the cryptid world, because most people can understand through the fossil record and through countless reports or maybe their own interactions. And once you get out in the woods and out of the city and actually get out there, you realize how remote and how many thousands of miles of just pure woods there are that no one really goes. And you're pretty open-minded to Bigfoot. But when you start getting into Bigfoot, you start hearing, people start seeing this dogman-like creature. And then people start seeing these little creatures. And then it kind of gets your interest like, really? And you start hearing about the truly bizarre ones, like the Loveland frog with the first picture we showed, and this one here, the Enfield horror, the just strange tripod creature that terrorized the town. And what's fascinating a lot about these really bizarre creatures is if your kid ran inside the house and said, I saw a 3-legged, polka-dotted, big-eyed, weird creature, you'd just be like, come on now, Or if they're really scared and really frightened, you can see it like, you must have misidentified something. But when 4 or 5 kids run in, and then you hear a neighbor say something, and then you hear somebody else say something, then it's like, there's more to this than this. And what's fascinating a lot about these creatures and some of the really bizarre things out there is multiple reports. There's a history of it. There's a town. It's amazing how you look at how many maps of the United States, because we'll focus on that primarily. You hear like Devil's Gulch or Devil's Canyon or Ape Canyon or Devil's Post Pile or Devil's Slide or Demon Ridge and Dark Holler, and they've all got reports of these strange creatures like the Goat Man and like we're talking about here, like the Mountain Giants. And World Bigfoot Radio, they do a great job. Go check out Brian Hansen. He has Brian Sullivan, and he has Kat Hansen on there quite often, and she's awesome. She talks about mountain giants being like the district managers. You have different clans of Bigfoots, and then you have these mountain giants in there that kind of keep everything in check and keep everything in balance, and it's just truly frightening. And then you get into like the Thunderbirds, and it's like, some people see them, some people don't. Like we've talked about on this channel, some people report them to be like a giant bird, like the biggest eagle you've ever seen in your life. Some people report them to be more pterodactyl-like, some kind of a pterosaur. And where these things are coming from, if they're a real flesh and blood creature, Some of these things seem to be like an interdimensional, where they come and go, and then they leave without a trace. And then you get into things that appear to be more demonic, like the Mothman's a great example of this, where many people saw it. It has great history. People still report them even up until this day. It has such a history of being a bad omen, or it's seen and bad events happen, or bad events happen and it's seen, however you want to look at it. And true terror, and nothing else that really fits into like the Mothman, like a giant winged bat serpent-like creature. And then you get away from the demonic into things like the Flatwoods Monster and other strange creatures and reptilians and stuff that appear to be more extraterrestrial, or in my opinion, more extra dimensional. And it's just truly bizarre. And just keep an open mind out there. These things are scary because it's something we're not familiar with. And please stay safe in the woods, folks. If you feel I deserve it, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. Thank you very much.